Hey, this is Gabe. Welcome back to another video. So in this video, I'm going to be using one of these rods, this one in particular. I bought both of these rods from a new friend that I met on Fountain Pen Enthusiast, Sean, and his pens that he makes are beautiful. And these blanks that he does are amazing. We're going to be using this one. This one is called Prey of the Shadows. And this one is Gattaca. And this one I'm going to save for another video. Here, I have it marked out for a cap right here, the body and a section. This is an 11-inch long blank, 20.5 millimeters in diameter. I'm used to working with an 18 millimeter diameter rod, so this is plenty of meat on this blank to work with. And anyway, I'm going to cut this up on the bandsaw. I'm not going to do anything really with this because I don't want to destroy the integrity of the acrylic, so I really want to see what the acrylic looks like. And I'm actually just going to use an exterior clip. I have a stainless steel nib, so I'm going to use an aluminum exterior clip. And then the next one I make, I'm going to go a little crazy with that one. But I just want to see what this looks like, how the material is to work with. And then I'm like he does, he provides extra material here. And when he sells his pens, he links, or he makes enough, he makes enough of a blank so you can add a rollerball section along with a fountain pen nib section. So I'm going to do the same as well, following along with how he does things. So anyway, with that, I'm going to cut this off here, and here, and then I'm going to hang on to this for the rollerball, and we'll come back to that part afterwards. First things first, I just want to take a parting tool, square this up on the end. I'm going to drill this line. So I should have showed you my diagram first of how this is going to work. I have this part right here. I drilled a 1/2 inch first. I'm going to clean it up with a 33/64 before I run the tap. But now I'm going to do a 3/8 inch by 2.5 inches deep. And to show you what I mean, like this is a cap that I cut in half. And then this is the first step right here that we drilled. So this is the second step I want to go in to this far. This one was originally made for a 1-inch section. That's why it's a little bit longer. So I'm doing a 7/8 inch section. So it's a little bit shorter inside now. So the first step is done like that. And then the second step will be like this. So this is a 3/8 inch drill. There's a line right here, and then that will be this cut right here like that. 33/64. That was to this line right there, like that. So the headstock is going to float back and forth. This is locked in place. And before I rotate this, it's easier to rotate this by hand with wearing gloves. Doing this about 3 times, and then I'm going backwards to relieve that thread cut. And I have a little line right here that I'm doing this to. Let me tighten that a little bit more. Normally I don't lubricate the threads. With ebonite I don't. I may have to do that with acrylic, but I think should be fine. So that is my first pass. When I back this out, now just in case, sometimes acrylic or ebonite, when you're drilling it out, the heat will make it expand, and then when this cools off, it contracts. So this is actually quite a bit tighter. So what I want to do, I want to put a hose clamp on this. So now I've got a hose clamp on there. I want to run this back through here, and then that will give me a nice clean cut all the way through. Even if the cap expands or contracts, the thread will be the same size. And it's fighting me a little bit, so I'll put my glove back on, because these right here, pieces of metal, are a little hard on the little fingers. Put that back in its little protective case. 14mm triple start thread. Before I remove this, I want to just relieve the back side of that on the inside. Take some tweezers, I'll clean this out, the swarth. That looks really good. And he already put a dimple on that when he shipped it, so I don't have to put a dimple on that when I put that on the mandrel. So that's all ready to go to turn. Now that we're ready to turn the cap, I put a couple lines right here, like this first line where this is, that is here. That is where the shoulder is on the inside from where we stopped, which would be this point. And then I want to go just past that before I start my taper. And then this line here is the end of the cap right here on the inside. And then the end of the cap is right here. So what our cap will look like this right here. And this is an exterior mini spoon clip that I attached, that I made out of a mini antique spoon. And you can see the taper on that, and that's what I'm going for. This is a SEM ebonite gray and black swirl. and the body also. So it's basically going to be patterned just like this one. This one also has a triple start thread. So I'm going to turn it down. The end of the cap here is 17.5 millimeters. And I think this is about 13.5 on that taper. And then once we get finished with that, then we'll do the body. I have my caliper set at a little more than 17.5 millimeters for this end here. And then I'll start tapering. I'm going to keep that till I get to this line. And then when I get to here, I'm going to taper down to the 13.5 millimeters on the end. For that, I'm just going to be using a parting tool. But before I start, I'm going to resharpen that, and then I'll be right back. So that is the basic shape of our cap. On the end, I am putting a concave finial, but then that is the inside of the cap right there with our threads. And then when we come back to wet sanding, we'll clean that all up and make that look really good. So onto the body next. So this will be the body, and I need to do two different things. I need to put a divot in the end on one side so that when it mounts on the mandrel, this will hold itself up with the live center. So we'll do that real quick. I don't have to square the end because I'm going to part that off. I'm just going to put in a small divot. I use this plug cutter, this part of it for cutting the holes for the plugs. I don't use the actual plug cutter itself. I just use that because this works perfect for this. It's really quick and easy. See, I got a divot. We'll flip that over. One thing I don't like about acrylics is it's so messy. So we're going to cut this part right here, this little tenon for the threads. So this is what we're going to use right here to cut those threads. So what I'm going to do is, instead of getting technical with the measurements, I'm just going to measure the outside diameter of the threads like that, transfer that here, So instead of it measuring 14.5 millimeters or something, it's just easier to do it like this. So going to the parting tool, I'm just going to cut that real quick. And I'm only cutting about 3/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to use the tool to, after I square the end, I'm going to make 1 cut, 2 cuts, and then 3 cuts over. In the tailstock, I have this floating die holder. The tailstock itself could be locked in place or not. In this case, I'm going to lock it in place because this floats back and forth. I do want my glove on to cut this right here. Just like we did before, I'm going to do 3 twists and then 1 back twist to release it, and then three more this way, and then another one back that way. 2, 3, release, forward, 1, 2, 3, reverse that away from me, pull it in, 1, 2, 3, back. So I want to use 2 different tools. I want to use my thin parting tool to cut just on the inside here and back so that I can relieve those threads all the way back. There. By doing that, this should be able to go on really nice and seat firmly all the way down, and that works great. So now we've cut that part right there. Now we need to drill out this right here and tap. So we'll get to the section afterwards. I'm going to use a 11/32 drill bit, and that's about a 3-inch hole. So my little jig here, it says body right there like that. That is the depth. And I need to transfer that same depth. So this is my drill bit here, and that is the marker that I have right there. So after a few minutes and cleaning this out about 4 times, I'm at the actual depth I needed to be. This is very hot, so don't touch that with your hands, or if you do, just be very careful that it is. Grab it from the end. So before I run my 10x075 tap inside here, because this is hot from drilling this out, it's still pretty warm. I don't want this to be in the expansion mode. Then after I run this tap, when this cools, this is going to be much tighter. So I have this little piece that I made right here, which is just the end of a cap. I threaded off some scrap ebonite. I cut it off and I put a relief so this can expand. So this gets threaded on like that. I'm going to go back to my hose clamp, and I'm going to put this on. And just like we did with the cap, that will keep that from expanding, and we'll cut an actual true size thread once that cools off. That's a little tight right now, so let me loosen that up a little bit, and then I'll make a second pass. But this one I do want to run a little bit of mineral oil on the inside of that, because I noticed this acrylic is a little chippy. Lock that in place. It's probably a little distracting. Remove that. Ouch. That's why I wear gloves, because I cut myself the other day doing that in the exact same spot. Just trying to heal. Okay. Now I want to put that on there. There. You see I got a little bit more off of that. Not too much, just enough. Just by doing that extra little step will make that section experience a lot better. So I have a tray for the triple start, and it has just the basics of what I need in that. When I'm doing my segmented pens, I have the exact same thing, except this is a double start thread that I use. So now that we have that cut right there, our threads inside and out for the body, we have our divot here on the back. On my mandrel, this is the opposite end. That holds that right there. And although I don't use this one anymore for that because I stripped the threads over here, this was actually designed to also hold the section. So instead of me making a brand new one, I just made one that's just for the dedicated section itself. So anyway, that goes on here like that. So now we're going to get ready to turn the body down. This is my jig right here. And you can see that that hole is drilled to that line, this first line here. And then this is about the end of the pen body itself that we need. And you can see what that looks like right there. So now that divot only goes in probably about this far. That's on the end, that little dimple. So plenty of extra room to work with. So on this end right here, I want about 15.5, and I want to go down to about 13.5 millimeters. So I have my caliper set for 15.5 here, and then I'll take it down to 13.5 over here. Just like before, I did a little bit of rough sanding off camera, concave on the foot and on the top. And you can see how that fits. Now all we have to do is make the section next. I've got my section blank in here, so I need to square up the end first. Back to my parting tool. I had to take a little bit of time to clean up the mess because it was getting out of hand. So I just want to flatten this side off right here first. And then I'm going to cut 3 threads over 3/8 of an inch, like I did with the body. 10 by 0.75. Now for the section, this is my little template here that I use. I have a little rare earth magnet on the side of my lathe right here, and I can just put that right there so I can look at it as I go, so I know my dimensions and how deep I need to go and so forth. So for my first cut, that's this right here. It's going to be in 11/30 seconds, and I'm only going down 1/16 of an inch or so. So my 11/30 seconds drill bit, that right there. Now let me show you the bit. I actually use my RotoZip, put in a little cutoff wheel, because I was using a Sharpie all the time marking the bit, and after 1 or 2 drills, when I'm drilling all the way to the end over here, this would always disappear. So I was constantly forever remarking for years, and I just said, you know what, this isn't spinning anyway, so it's not a big deal. So I just put in a groove. Now I don't have to worry about losing that line ever again. So, I don't know if you like that idea. Let me know in the comments below. I just came up with that. My next cut is a 5/16 by 1/2 inch. When I look at the section, this first right here, that's 11/30 seconds. Our second drill goes from here to here. That's going to be 5/16. So just like I did before, 5/16 inch drill bit. I grooved a line in there, 1/2 inch down. And then our third drill is 17/64, which is here. 17/64 is the thread from here all the way down. So same thing right there. I've got a little line in the drill bit so I know where to go. Now on the back side, we drilled a hole 17/64, but if I look at the converter and I put that in there, it only goes in a little bit. Granted, when it sticks in there, the section isn't that long, but I just want to play it a little bit safer and step that hole up to at least a 19/64 or a 9/32 coming from the back side. So I didn't drill it all the way through. So if I flip the drill bit around, I know that I'm that deep right there. So that brings me right to that edge. And my 19/64, I've got a little line right there in ink, but I'm just going to go ahead and put a solid groove in there. So I'm drilling this hole here from the back side, and I'm leaving that narrow gap intact. And as I drilled through, I could feel that breakthrough on the other side. So with my little stick here, I just clean that hole out. I'm going to rechuck this the opposite way. I'm going to use my tap for Jowo number 6. That is an M7.4-5D3 Tapco for Jowo number 6. On the side of my lathe over here where my finger is, my left hand, I have a small rare earth magnet. On that magnet I have a little screw here, and I rounded the head a little bit. What I've done over here, you can see the back side. I've drilled this handle out where this can screw in. And I only do this when I'm doing the sections right here. Doing this all the time gets kind of old, since it's not an aggressive thread or anything. I like doing it this way. I am going to put a little squirt of mineral oil in there because this alumilite is a little delicate. So I don't want that to splinter on the inside. So this makes it a lot easier, this handle. Lock that in place. There. Then when I'm finished, I just unscrew this with my left hand. It's out of the way. Put it on the rare earth magnet out of the way over here. Now, when this is spinning, if that is on there, this causes the lathe to vibrate like crazy. So, and then if you stick your hand here, it just beats it up. So make sure you take that off if you decide to do something like that. Before I put this in the little mandrel and start turning, I want to check that nib. All is well. That should go in there perfectly, and it does. So now I can proceed to the next area of turning that section down. So this gets check back in here. And I already have this set. This diameter here is set to a 1/2 inch. So all I have to do is just follow that same all the way across, that same adjustment. And because this has a hole in the front and it's already faced, all I have to do is hook up my live center right there. As a side note, I have a little drawer of these always handy right here, so that when I do something like that with the mineral oil, I can wipe those out before I test my section inside, so I don't get it full of oil. Okay, so we just did a straight tapered section, just like that. That looks pretty cool. Then of course when that goes on there, remember, if you've never done this before, the section needs to be smaller than the inside diameter of that cap, or just the same size. I like just a hair under, but either way, as long as it's a 1/2 inch or less, because that's what that inside is. So anyway, I leave it a little bit larger initially. That way when I go back over and do the sanding with the coarse grits, the 220, 320, 400, and then I move to the micro mesh, that leaves me some room to take off for the final shaping and sanding and the polish and so forth. But we will do all the polishing and wet sanding. You know, I'll demonstrate how I do one of the pieces with the cap, and then the rest follows the same suit. So this is my diagram for my rollerball. This is for a Schmidt ceramic rollerball. As you can see, total length is 1 7/8. We have 3/8 of a tenon, threaded tenon here, 7/8, and then 5/8. So this is this right here, like this, starting out with 3/8 right here for the threaded section that gets screwed into the body of the cap. I guess it would make sense if I turn this around, not the paper upside down. So 7/8 right here in the middle, and then 5/8 for the end where the rollerball protrudes out of. So what's going on under the hood? We have 1/4 inch drilled down, 1 1/4 inch here, 11/64 drilled in 3/16 of an inch, and then the rest of the way we have a 7/64 that's going to come out 7/16 of an inch this way here. That was a lot of trial with the ink, and then measuring the ink refill with one of these gauges so I could know exactly what series of steps and how far to drill that out. So the first thing we do is we start from the inside, because you can't drill this way, you know, in incremental steps. So we need to start from the tenon, then drill our way all the way through. After it's drilled, then we'll put this in this little jig like this, and then the live center will actually stick inside that hole, and then that'll be stable on the mandrel, and we can turn it to shape. Blank is mounted, my line is here. Remember, we're going to make a tenon with these threads, so we're just going to mark that with the calipers so that I know exactly how thick to turn that down. So you've already seen me do that. And then we're going to put this in the floating die holder. And to keep the video a little bit shorter, I'm just going to do those 2 steps there off camera, and then we'll come back. So now that we have this threaded here, now we need to start our drilling. A little bit backwards compared to how I have this chucked here, but you'll get the basic steps of how this works. So I'm taking a Schmidt refill. This is drawn to actual scale. So this will fit inside there like that, so that that tip just barely comes out the end. And you can see what that looks like when I bring it in a little bit closer. So the first thing that we need to do is we're going to drill from here to here. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch drill, 1 1/4 inches deep. This is my line right here. For the next drill, we're going to use an 11/64, and you can see where that is marked right there. So it's only a very shallow cut, only about this far. I'm already hitting the bottom right there, so I just want to back off just a little bit. Lock that in place. There. And then with a 7/64, I'm just going to drill that all the way through. Okay, now you can see that hole went all the way through, that 7/64. This is the refill, a nice snug fit, and you can see that is coming out just about the amount that we want right there, so that's perfect. Now we will just turn this down. For here, I'm going to make it concave, and then I'm going to step down and round that end. And this end right here is acting as our bushing, so I know I need to make it that diameter on the outside diameter, just like we did on the regular section. So in this drawing here, I have the part that sticks out past the section area as a little bit thinner than the middle part here. It actually looks better if it's the way I have it drawn here, so that where this is at its thinnest point, I want that to be the thickest point and then taper down. I've done it this way and this way, but personally I like the way this one looks better, so this is the way I'm going to shape that. We will do all the polishing and wet sanding. I'll demonstrate how I do one of the pieces with the cap, and then the rest follows the same suit. So we'll do the cap next. 220. This is 320. This is 400. Now we're ready to start wet sanding. This has already been sanded with 220, 320, and 400. Wet sanding, I'm going to be using micro mesh. This is 1500 grit, 1800 grit, 2400 grit, 3200 grit, 3600 grit, 4000, 6000, 8000, and 12,000 grit. All right, now you can see how good that looks. And then we'll just do the rest off camera and then we'll come back. Okay, we are back after some time micro meshing and polishing, and I also took some time to put on a aluminum clip, polished aluminum clip that I just made this morning, and that complements the stainless steel nib. This is a Jowo number 6 Rosetta nib. It's a fine nib, so you can see that complements that very well. Now, something that also need to talk about real quick is the type of converter I use. Now, not all converters are the same length. Now, let's look at a Schmidt converter versus this is a Zoe, this is a Schmidt. And my fingers are even on top, and you can see that the Schmidt is a little bit larger, also a little bit bigger diameter wise, so this holds more ink. And so the body here is actually drilled out to accommodate the Schmidt, but if I use something like this inside the body, and I'll show you what I mean, I'll put in the Zoe converter and I line those up even on the bottom. You can see those are nice and even. Let's try the longer one, the Schmidt. That's pushed in all the way on the bottom. We'll line that up. You can see that the Schmidt is longer. So when you drill out the body, you have to accommodate that length. So I usually go 3 inches so that won't bottom out. And I still have an 1/8 of an inch clearance on the bottom on the inside. But if I'm using something like this inside, and you can see that's substantially shorter on the inside, well, you need to make up for that difference since I don't have any springs, but you can see how good that looks. That feels very nice if you're left-handed or right-handed. So what I usually do is I usually take a little piece of a dowel and I cut off that distance, and then I just drop that on the inside so that seats all the way in. So anyway, that's what I do when it comes to that. So just like before, if you like this pen and you like both sections that come with it, give us a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments, and when I get the contacts for Sean, I'll put that in the bottom so you can contact him for a blank like this. Have a good day. Hey, this is Gabriel Castro. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel. You can click on the link right here and subscribe. You can watch a video series right here or the latest video right here.